attacks me on a regular basis. She says stupid shit on a regular basis. They just happen to coincide. But can I just say this? I had on last week Ira Glasser, former longtime head of the ACLU, talking about free speech.
And The View is a particularly weird place to do a cancellation.
It's called The View?
It's called The View. It's not called The Facts.
Yeah, but isn't it interesting that it's called, I mean, I don't think they meant this when Barbara Walters invented it a long time ago, but it's The View.
Well,
that's the problem in America.
But
there is one view,
right, and
one
that's clearly
true opinion, and everybody else can go sit in the corner.
That's correct. I think that's not actually.
It's surprising what Bill Maher reveals about Sonny Hostin on The View. Even Sonny didn't see what was coming next. It was a complete shock, and one of the rare times Maher came across this direct and one-sided against Sonny. This wasn't a typical TV debate, so get ready because this story quickly heats up. Maher walked into the discussion ready to challenge every claim, turning the entire conversation upside down.
Argument for color blindness, I think, is something that the right has co-opted. And so many in the black community, if I'm being honest with you, because I want to be, believe that you are being used as a pawn by the right and that you're a charlatan of sorts.
He's not a Republican.
So how do you...
He's never voted for a Republican.
You've said that you're a conservative.
No.
Sonny herself wasn't the main target of Maher's criticism. He used her as a symbol because, in his view, she now represents more than just an outspoken co-host on a daytime show. To him, she reflects a much larger problem within today's media landscape. That approach changes everything. The discussion no longer centers on one person and her opinions. Instead, it becomes a criticism of a broader system that, according to Maher, blurs the line between journalism and political messaging. Sonny happens to be the most recognizable face of that system. Once viewers begin seeing her as a representation of a larger issue rather than simply a television personality, the impact of her words starts to fade. It's the kind of perception that's difficult to shake off.
And the same thing can happen to ideas if they are also conceived in an atmosphere of intellectual incest. Maybe take the clothespins off your noses and actually converse with the other half of the country. Stop screaming at people to get with the program and instead...
Then came the moment that struck at her credibility the most. In a viral exchange, Maher openly questioned whether Sonny's criticism was still grounded in facts. What made it hit harder was the way he delivered it. There was no anger or shouting, just a calm, confident tone that carried far more weight. The directness of his point made it difficult to ignore. According to Maher, Sonny often leans more on emotion than evidence, and once that doubt enters the minds of viewers, it tends to remain. It grows over time. The issue isn't that people share their opinions. Everyone is entitled to do that. The real concern begins when those opinions are presented as unquestionable truths, while information that challenges them is quietly pushed aside.
You know better, Senator Kelly. You know better. How dare you do that? You could go to the House. You can draw up paperwork. You can try to start articles of impeachment if you think there's something illegal. I mean, damn, it ain't like y'all haven't done it before. You impeached the man twice. Where'd that get you? Got his behind back in the White House.
This is the moment where The View gets stuck on a single idea: performed outrage. Reports suggest Maher pointed to this directly, linking it to Sonny's reactions on major issues. What makes it land so strongly is that it reflects something viewers have quietly noticed for some time. The anger often feels prepared in advance. It flows too easily, almost as if it already knows which side will be challenged and which will be defended. The intensity doesn't always feel spontaneous. It feels guided.
React to everything, or have a hot take on everything, or care if someone says they don't like cats. You know, it wasn't that long ago when the most banal question you could ever ask someone was, are you a cat person or a dog person? Well, those innocent days are over, as actors Paul Mescal and Jessie Buckley found out recently when they were asked that and said they don't like cats, and the internet coughed up a furball.
Sonny becomes especially exposed to this kind of criticism for one simple reason. She doesn't just present an argument, she often frames it as the only acceptable way to see things. When someone disagrees, the response can shift quickly. It stops being a debate about ideas and turns into a judgment about character. In that setup, disagreement isn't treated as different thinking, but as something more personal and negative. On television, that kind of tone can become polarizing, and Maher is known for pointing it out when he sees it.
They're fine. Most people would give their eye teeth to get a house like this in Purchase, New York. So why doesn't she just STFU? I've had it with these fakers who have all the advantages of being born and living in America and the American dream coming true for them. She said it's...
The real criticism, however, comes right after that. According to an insider account, Maher suggested that Sunny and the wider panel may sometimes push narratives that leave out uncomfortable facts. If that claim is taken at face value, the issue goes beyond tone or delivery. It becomes a question of whether the framing of topics is shaping reality in a selective way to support a preferred political angle. For a daytime talk show built on discussion and opinion, that kind of accusation is difficult to shrug off without scrutiny.
In our modern age, starting with, if the headlines in your preferred news outlet routinely feature words like shreds, destroys, pummels, bashes, your outlet is a partisan piece of shit. Either that or you're reading a Batman comic. Ditto with obliterates, roasts, annihilates, and owns. You're supposed to be a source for information, not Nikki Glazer at the Tom.
Then the discussion gets pulled into the Israel issue. Sunny's position on Israel, according to her critics, reflects what Maher is said to dislike most: inconsistency. In their view, she appears far more comfortable criticizing Israel than applying the same level of moral scrutiny to opposing perspectives. For Maher, who has been consistently clear and outspoken in his support, that kind of imbalance stands out sharply. It is framed by him and his supporters as a sign of a wider problem in modern media, where fairness can shift depending on the narrative being pushed.
It's astounding to me that they can't tell the good guys from the bad guys. I mean, just morally. I mean, let me tell you, if you're for Hamas, just live in Gaza for a day. And I'm not talking about while the war is on. I mean, before the war. Trust me, you would go running and screaming and begging to live in Tel Aviv, a place that has your values. I mean, women have no,
At that point, Sunny is seen as losing the one thing every host depends on: trust. When audiences feel they can already predict her reaction before she even speaks, her words start to carry less weight. The polished delivery begins to stand out in a different way, and what once looked like confidence can start to feel more like a practiced role rather than a natural response.
Netanyahu?
Well, that's ridiculous, but it's a war.
Why?
It's a war. Because it's a war and they were attacked and they're defending themselves. Now, this is a war. Do you think Hamas needs to be destroyed? This is the question.
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
So how can we get out
I-
with a ceasefire?
All right, so Hamas...
In reality, The View has faced criticism for this kind of approach for quite some time. While the show often presents itself as a space for bold discussion and honest conversation, some viewers argue that a different pattern sits underneath that image. To them, it can feel like a controlled environment where certain facts are softened or left out, specific talking points are encouraged, and emotional reactions are given more weight than full context.
Children's future. Well, fear not, Sunny, because look at the picture she posted just the other day. Here is her son graduating from Harvard. Yes, her black son graduated from Harvard, even though it's a country of white supremacists, and she's deeply, deeply worried for his future. I'm sure he has no chance ahead of him, Stu.
This is also why Sunny becomes the most visible example of the issue for critics. When she presents her points with strong certainty, any serious pushback is said to expose how fragile that confidence can become under pressure. Maher, in this framing, leans into that contrast. He uses what he sees as overconfidence against itself, suggesting it can come across as less grounded when challenged directly. In that view, the certainty begins to look less like strength and more like something that depends on a setting where it isn't questioned too deeply.
The problem with communism and with some very recent ideologies here at home is that they think you can change reality by screaming at it, that you can bend human nature by holding your breath. But that's the difference.
This is the part that critics call the most striking. Maher doesn't need loud arguments or dramatic outbursts. In this framing, his approach is simpler. He makes Sunny and The View look artificial. Once that impression takes hold, the audience begins to fill in the gaps on its own. they start noticing patterns, what some describe as repeated emotional reactions, selective focus on certain issues, and resistance to viewpoints that don't align with the discussion. From this perspective, Maher isn't just challenging a TV personality. He is pointing to what he believes is a larger structure behind the show. Supporters of this view say it encourages many viewers to reconsider how The View presents its conversations and whether it functions more as open discussion or structured commentary. This leads to bigger questions. Can Sunny Hostin stand up to this kind of criticism? Has The View shifted from discussion into something more performative? And was Maher fair in how he approached it, or did he go too far? Whatever side someone takes, the reaction shows how strongly these debates resonate with audiences watching from the outside.